Welcome to another devlog for the indie game I'm making with the Godot game engine. In the previous devlog, I made a major change and removed diagonal movement to simplify logic and make the game's movement look better. In this video, I'll share 3 small items of progress I've made since then. I did some traveling last week to take a much needed vacation from work, which is why these updates are small. But small progress is still progress in the long journey to finish my indie game. So without further ado, 2 devlogs ago I shared how I added a system for enemy tanks to spawn into the game from the top of the map. The basic idea is the tanks will spawn randomly onto this gray part here, which will be hidden from the player. They'll then move into the game, blasting away a tree if there's one in front of them. The problem, however, is because the spawn is random, even if they blast away the tree that's in front of them, they could still end up in the middle of the forest, surrounded by trees. When this happens, the tank's movement algorithm won't have any movement options because all these trees and the border of the map are blocking it, so it stops moving and just gets stuck. This situation where the tank has no movement options and gets stuck can also happen in the middle of the map if a tank gets blocked by other tanks. Even when the obstacles blocking the tank get cleared, the tank just stays there, stuck, because the algorithm broke. To fix this, I added a new movement state called spin state. This state follows a super simple algorithm. Save the movement state prior to entering this spin state. Start a timer to rotate the tank 45 degrees every 3 seconds. Every physics process, check if there is a neighboring tile you can move to. If there is a movement option, go back to the prior state and cancel the timer. If there is none, continue spinning. Go back to step 2. The tanks automatically enter this state whenever they get blocked on all 4 sides. The nice thing about this is because the tank will continue to shoot while spinning, it can eventually get itself out of the forest. Also, and maybe more importantly, the tanks continue to move while stuck, and it doesn't look like the game is broken to the player. The second small update for my game is I added tank animations. Obviously, I'm not a very good artist. I work as a distributed systems engineer, so making art is very new to me, but I'm pretty happy with the fact that when I originally made these sprites, I designed them in such a way that it makes it easy to add movement animations. The animation is hard to see in turns, especially when zoomed out, because the turns are so fast, but if we zoom in and slow down time, you can see them running. While testing my game a while back, I saw an instance where an enemy tank fired a shell past the border into the void. Now I normally wouldn't see this because I test my game with the camera angle the game will use when it's released, but luckily I was testing it zoomed out and saw it happen. Here's a quick recap of how the shells in the border works. When the shell is fired from a tank, it travels in a straight line until it hits something, and then it gets freed from memory. If it doesn't hit a tree or a tank, it hits the border of the map and then it gets freed from memory. The border of the map is a static body 2D with line collision shapes. That keeps everything, including tanks, inside the map. So the bug happens when the tank is right up against the border. Its body is kept in the map by the border, but the spawn point of the shell is past the border. When the tank fires, the shell is instanced past the border and escapes into the void where it will consume memory forever. I thought of a few possible ways to fix this. The first idea I had was to add a despawn timer. This means that when the shell is fired, it automatically starts a countdown timer using a timer node. And when that timer expires, it gets freed from memory even if it didn't hit anything. But this just adds an extra variable to the shell, and I have to set the timer so it is long enough that it doesn't despawn in the map, but short enough that it still saves memory. The second idea I had was to check if the shell spawn point is past the border and just not instance the shell if it is. I'd still have to simulate the firing, play the fire sound, and start the reload timer, but just not instance the shell. This seems like the most logical solution, and one that a good engineer would choose. But while writing code to accomplish this, I realized there was a simpler solution that might not be as elegant, but was simpler. Solution is to add an outer border. This outer border is basically the same as the map border, it's just larger. This outer border will serve as the absolute maximum point a shell will travel because it will catch any shell that is fired past the inner border. And with this simple solution in place, the shells now get freed properly even if they are fired past the inner border. These borders will of course not be visible to the player because the game will be played in this view. Alright, that's it for this devlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, you can subscribe. Goodbye.